I'm Mellow Stars in Fort Pierce, and Fort Pierce police officer Nicholas Nothoff is facing 2 felony charges. One of those is assault with a deadly weapon. Deputies say the car chasing crash happened last Friday. The officer and his girlfriend allegedly got into some sort of verbal fight at the home they share on 104th Avenue right outside of Vero Beach. When the victim left the home in her car to get away, deputies say Nothoff followed her in his truck. According to reports, it was right here in the 9300 block of 101st Avenue where allegedly Nothoff used his truck to slam into the back of his girlfriend's vehicle. Now, also where we're standing right now is about 3 minutes down the road from where Nothoff's home is. The crash, all captured on a neighbor's home surveillance camera. Deputies say after Nothoff slammed his truck into the back of the victim's car, he continued to follow her in an aggressive manner. Now, I did reach out to Fort Pierce Police, and they did release this statement. The Fort Pierce Police Department confirms the arrest of one of our officers by the Indian River County Sheriff's Office in connection with domestic violence incident. This alleged behavior does not reflect our department's values or commitment to the community we serve. An internal affairs investigation has been initiated. An officer has been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation's outcome. Deputies say that the crash was intentional. Nothoff says that the victim slowed down in her car, causing the crash. I did go to Nothoff's home, but nobody answered the door. Reporting in Fort Pierce, Mellow Stars.
The new police chief of the Darlington County town of Lamar is facing criticism from community members tonight for his actions this past weekend. A viral video on social media shows the chief's interaction with a man at a store. And since that video, a few complaints have come in about the chief. ABC 15's Tanya Brown talked with the man in the video and the woman who recorded it. She is live in Lamar tonight. Tanya.
Connor, that video has gained more than 215,000 views on social media as of this afternoon. Now, the police chief says that he was only doing his job, but many people say his tactics are out of order.
That's recording. Why is you touching him? You shouldn't be touching him.
This is the video of Lamar Police Chief Dennis Carter talking with 40-year-old Anthony McFadden this past Saturday night at a store. McFadden says Carter harassed him not long after he pulled into the store. In the video, you hear Carter asking McFadden several questions.
Just asking. It's a simple question. Where do you live?
You want my ID?
Yeah, I would like to see your ID. That's all I'm asking for is your ID.
Timbersville.
McFadden's friend, Yvette Simon, says the car belonged to her and she works at the store. Simon tells me she recorded the interaction after she thought McFadden's rights were being violated.
I was getting ready to go back in the store, actually, but that made me turn around and turn my camera footage on, especially when I seen him grab Mr. McFadden by the arm. You know, he have a job, he has a duty. He breached that duty that night.
What did he do?
I talked with Chief Carter about what happened. He says he was across the street from the store when he heard McFadden and Simon arguing and using profanity. So Carter tells me he went over to the store to see what was going on because it involved a domestic situation. He says he asked questions relevant to the situation. Carter says he had a 3 to 4 minute conversation with McFadden and another man in the car prior to Simon recording it on her cell phone. He says there was much more to this incident, but he can't go into full details.
Lamar Town Council has reviewed the information available at this time.
Lamar Town Council members held an emergency meeting Monday night to discuss Carter's actions and 2 more complaints against him of harassing and unfairly treating people. Council did not take any action, but the town's mayor, James Howell, sent me a statement saying, quote, "We are aware of the recent events and are conducting a thorough and impartial investigation to determine the facts. We are committed to transparency and will provide updates to the public as appropriate." Carter tells me he was only doing his job in each incident. What would you all like to see happen with this investigation?
I would just like to see, take responsibilities. He's not the right person for the town.
Carter has worked for the Darlington County Sheriff's Office and the Detention Center over his 36 years in law enforcement. I pulled his records from the State Criminal Justice Academy and found that his certification has never been flagged for any wrongdoing. Live in Lamar, Tanya Brown, ABC 15 News.
Tanya, thank you. We'll let you know when the town's investigation is finished.
Good morning and welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's 7:30 a.m. bright and early right here at home on the range. Thank you so much for being here today, folks. I really appreciate it. We're going to start our day out today with a really big update. Check it out. Former Culpeper sheriff has been sentenced to 10 years on federal bribery charges. Wow. The dumber they are, the harder they fall. Scott Jenkins received over $75,000 in cash payments in exchange for auxiliary department sheriff appointments. Big dummy. Former sheriff, Culpeper County, Virginia, was sentenced today to 10 years in prison for accepting over $75,000 in bribes in exchange for appointing numerous North Virginia businessmen as auxiliary deputies within his department. Yeah, we know all about it. In December 2024, a jury convicted Scott Howard Jenkins, age 53, of Culpeper, Virginia, 1 count of conspiracy, 4 counts of honest services fraud, and 7 counts of bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. Wow. Good grief. Okay, that's what he did. In return for the bribes, Jenkins appointed each of the bribe payers as auxiliary deputy sheriffs, a sworn law enforcement position, issued them official Culpeper County Sheriff's Office badges and credentials. The bribe payors were not trained or vetted and didn't render any legitimate services to the sheriff's office or the citizens of Culpeper County. All for show. Guy's going to sit in jail just trying to be cool, raking in some dough. All right, that's the story on him. That's a good update. It's a great way to start out the show. Thank you so much for being here, folks. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, he said get the off my property. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
This is video out of Harrisburg over the weekend. It's now been seen countless times. Harrisburg police officers seen shoving a man to the ground near traffic. This was on 2nd Street in Harrisburg. Thanks for being here tonight with us at 11 o'clock. I'm Joel D. Smith. We're breaking down some of these videos right here, getting some new perspectives on this, and also finding out what the city is saying about this on what's usually a busy night in downtown Harrisburg for St. Patrick's Day celebration. CBS 21's Maxine Rose live on 2nd Street. She actually talked to the person who was down, that person's sister. Maxine, fill us in.
Yeah, Joel D., we're standing right in front of Harrisburg's Nocturnal nightclub on 2nd Street, and what appears to be a much quieter landscape than what we saw in that video from Saturday. And today, we showed people that video of the arrest and got their reactions to what happened at this crosswalk right behind me.
Oh, that's like, oh!
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Wow. Oh! Why is he ragdolling him?
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Oh man, only in Harrisburg, huh?
A video taken on Saturday night getting a lot of reaction when I showed people what happened. Harrisburg police shoving 22-year-old Carter Birch to the ground and into a busy intersection.
You can't really see it in the video much, but like seeing it in person, like his head was so close to that tire. That's why you can see me in the video like run out, because I was terrified that his head was going to get smashed by a tire.
Birch declined to speak with us, but his sister, Isabella, who didn't want her face on camera, says her brother is hurt by what happened.
Yeah, he went to urgent care afterwards for his neck because his neck was hurting him, and he has like cuts and bruises all over his body.
The city says it's reviewing the video. Officials say Birch was being arrested for drunk and disorderly conduct and that he had been in a fight before the video began. However, Isabella says something had happened last weekend, but it was never a fight, just a bouncer's misunderstanding.
We came back because they said that they misread the situation, and they never said we were banned or anything.
If we already had history, you know what I mean, why come back? But again, there was no need for that. I mean, he wasn't violent, in my opinion. They could have just, you know, politely arrested him, I guess.
It's definitely scary and terrifying. It makes me feel like there definitely are bad cops out there. Seeing the other 2 cops watch it happen and engage in it when the other cop grabbed his neck, that just makes me definitely scared.
Do you think something like that on Saturday deters you from going out?
Not at all. I mean, not really. As long as you just stay doing what you're doing, it shouldn't really be a problem, you know?
Of course. A lot of people are afraid of the police, and it really shouldn't be like that.
Folks, we have breaking news out of one of America's least favorite cities. It's true. Oklahoma City. What are you gonna do? I mean, they're known for tumbleweeds and dust bowls and excessive force knucklehead cops. And you guys all remember this guy. And guess what? He resigned. OKC police officer accused of excessive force. He just resigns. He couldn't take it anymore, allegedly. It says here, though, that it was first reported that Oklahoma City Police Department spokesperson confirmed Sergeant Joseph Gibson, he's no longer with the department, but was not terminated. Okay. In October of last year, Gibson got into the altercation with the 71-year-old Lick Vu while issuing him a traffic ticket. The body cam footage showed Vu tapping Gibson's chest with the back of his hand. After that, Gibson twisted Vu's arm behind his back, threw him on the ground, causing him to hit his head on the pavement. Vu was hospitalized for several injuries, including a neck fracture and a brain bleed. Yeah, we all remember watching Gibson do that. Well, District Attorney Vicky Bahena filed criminal charges against Gibson, but those charges were dismissed by Attorney General Getner Drummond. Getner, goofball. So a representative for Vu's family told KFOR he's still in very poor health after the incident. Well, all we know is that Sergeant Joseph Gibson, the excessive force goofball, has quit the force. And he's probably going to move on to another city, allegedly. Be on the lookout.
23-year-old Amari Johnson was waiting for some friends outside of an apartment building in La Mesa when Officer Matthew Dagus started questioning him. This was in May of 2020, just 2 days after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And what happened next would become a local flashpoint in the broader reckoning over racial justice. Johnson, who was black, answered the officer's questions. That's when Dagus, who was white, grabbed Johnson's shirt. The exchange was captured on the officer's body camera.
You look goofy as hell, bro. Stop touching me, bro.
Dagus then pushed Johnson onto a concrete bench multiple times before arresting him.
I have no reason to be detained by you, bro. Sit down. Bro, stop. Sit down.
Bystander video of the incident went viral. Days later, the city of La Mesa was engulfed in protests that turned into riots. Johnson was never charged. Dagus, meanwhile, was fired after an internal investigation found he made false statements in his arrest report. Then, last year, he lost his statewide peace officer certification for good. That means he can no longer be a cop anywhere in California. Dagus did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Johnson recently told KPBS he was relieved that Dagus had lost his badge.
I was hoping that he wasn't going to be able to be an officer anywhere else, but honestly, with knowing my experience with him, he was just going to go ahead and do the same thing to somebody else in a different area.
Several years ago, state lawmakers created a system for decertifying officers who commit acts of serious misconduct or are convicted of certain crimes. The law aimed to address the so-called wandering officer problem, where some cops would bounce from one department to another, leaving behind a trail of bad behavior.
We're hoping to bring forth a fair and equitable and transparent way of removing officers who have broken the law, broke public trust.
Stephen Bradford is the former state senator who authored the legislation. California, at the time, was one of few states without a decertification process. Bradford says the state needed to catch up.
There's bad doctors, there's bad teachers, there's bad elected officials. We have to accept the fact that there are bad police officers.
The decertification system launched in 2023. From the start, it was inundated with misconduct reports and complaints. Some incidents went back decades. So far, the state has decertified nearly 300 officers. Many others have had their certifications suspended while being investigated. So accountability under the law is happening, albeit slowly. There are still over 18,000 open cases.
And so that's just a massive number of reports to sift through.
Anne Marie Del Manayo is with the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, or POST. The commission is in charge of both certifying and decertifying officers, but POST has struggled to hire investigators. That's created a backlog of cases. The result could mean justice delayed or justice expired.
The concern with that is that we have a statute of limitations. So from the time the agency submits their final report to POST, we have 3 years within which we have to complete our review and make a determination.
If that statute of limitations expires, bad cops might remain on the force. Del Manayo says POST is working to make the process more efficient. but police accountability advocates are worried. Michali Woodson is the legal director for the San Diego-based organization Pillars of the Community.
Any step towards holding those bad actors accountable is progress and is success, even if that doesn't feel like enough for our community members. It is a step in the right direction. But I do know that there's so much more that needs to be done.
Woodson says any delay in punishing bad officers could further erode trust with communities that already distrust the system.
Well, this story should really get you going. Should fire you up this morning. Look at this goofball bad apple. That's what he is. He's a former Las Vegas Metro police officer sentenced to probation for child abuse and domestic violence. Wonder how bad it was. This guy, former Las Vegas Metro police officer Joseph Ortega is his name. He's been sentenced to probation after being accused of child abuse and domestic violence. Ortega was found guilty of destroying property, pointing a gun at his children, and engaging in excessive physical discipline. Well, he was found guilty of those things. Whoa! The incidents, which occurred in March 2023, came to light in October 2023 during an unrelated investigation. The mother of Ortega's 2 children reported to police that he had been violent, smashing objects inside their home, and later terrifying the children by pointing a gun at them through the window. And this guy gets probation. Okay. Ortega's defense attorney, who's apparently great, Frank Kaka argued that Ortega was suffering from a psychological breakdown at the time of the incident. Ortega posted multiple videos on Facebook in the months following the trial, claiming that many of the allegations against him were false. Can't even believe I read that sentence. Damn. Okay. All right. The judge says this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. After a jury found Ortega guilty, he faced the possibility of more than a decade in prison. However, Judge Delaney decided to sentence him to probation, placing several strict conditions on his release. Ortega will be required to undergo mental health counseling, anger management therapy, and parenting courses as part of his probation. In addition to these requirements, he must refrain from alcohol and marijuana use and must maintain full-time employment. Hopefully not as a cop, right? At least you're going to give us that, right? Ortega will be subject to searches of his electronic devices to ensure compliance with the terms of his probation. This is probably, what they find when they start looking into cops' phones, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm not a legend, but you never know. As part of this sentence, Ortega is barred from contacting his children except as permitted by family court. Should he violate any of these terms of his probation, he could still face time behind bars. No, he's not. He's getting off super light because he's a typical bad apple, coddled by everyone. All right, loser. Okay, let's move on with the show.
Last fall, 19 Investigates first showed you how several Summit County inmates had recently escaped custody. In most cases, the Summit County Sheriff's Office failed to notify the public, despite state and local laws. This year, another inmate escaped, and at first, SCSO denied she was ever in their custody. However, 19 Investigates found she was. Now the Sheriff's Office has determined the deputies involved should be disciplined. The escape happened on January 21st when police arrested 34-year-old Antoinette Henderson for stealing from a Target in University Heights.
Turn around for me. Put your hands on your back. Put them together like you're praying.
Henderson told police she was having medical issues, so they brought her to University Hospitals in Cleveland. Since Henderson had an active felony warrant in Summit County, Deputy Antonio Pacheco arrived to take custody. Records show before he could cuff her, she bolted out the back door. Now, 2 months later, police say she's still on the run. When SCSO investigated the escape, they found that both Pacheco and his supervisor, Glenn Orr, violated several policies. However, it's not specified on their disciplinary report what the actual discipline will be. The report does state Pacheco failed to restrain Henderson with cuffs or leg shackles and didn't keep his eyes on her. The report also states Orr failed to notify his supervisor about Henderson's escape. Investigators recommended he be disciplined for 2 violations, including unsatisfactory performance and truthfulness. His disciplinary form states, reports will be truthful and complete, and no employee will knowingly enter false or incomplete information.
It's getting crazy in Oklahoma today. Sarah says that an Oklahoma detention officer has been arrested on grape charges, and it is breaking news. Duncan, Oklahoma, according to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, a Stevens County detention officer has been taken into custody after being accused of grape. Officials say Stevens County Sheriff's Office requested the OSBI's help with the investigation on March the 3rd, 2025. During the investigation, the OSBI special agents determined a Stevens County detention officer, later identified as 58-year-old Christy Baird, it's a lady raper, was involved in inappropriate misconduct with an inmate. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. The OSBI says on March 19th, an arrest warrant was issued for Baird on 2 felony charges of second-degree grape and sexual battery. The next day, she was arrested and booked into the Stevens County Jail. Terrible. Awful. Okay, let's move on.
Details on how an Orlando officer was able to clock in and out dozens of times on his alleged shifts from his home without anyone knowing for months. Nick Papantonis is live from Orlando Police Headquarters. And Nick, you're trying to figure out if any more officers are being investigated tonight.
And our sources are telling us there are others. Now, Orlando police say their systems did wind up eventually catching this officer, but investigators say he was a coordinator for this system, means he was responsible for submitting much, including his own paperwork. The court paperwork laying out a pattern. Investigators saying Matthew Fleury, seen here in this 2017 recruiting video, was supposed to patrol iDrive area office complexes 68 times between July and September of last year. These were extra duty shifts, ways for officers to earn some cash off the clock. They say in many of those 68 shifts, Fleury never left his house in Claremont, racking up more than $12,000 in the process. And in 2 cases, he was working his normal shifts, double dipping. Detectives say it was Fleury's radio and other equipment with GPS trackers that caught him, and his failure to call in and monitor that radio for other officers in need of help. And while the system flagged his activity, it didn't immediately alert his supervisors when he clocked in from 18 miles away. That's because they say Fleury served as a coordinator for the extra duty shifts and had set the acceptable distance to clock into his shifts without generating an error message to 500 miles, enough to get him to Montgomery, Alabama undetected. Officer Fleury did not appear to be home when we stopped by Thursday, and he did not respond to a voicemail we left on his cell phone. He was released on a $1,600 bond after his arrest. Now, OPD did say that Officer Fleury retired from duty when confronted with these accusations, but he would have been terminated based on what they uncovered. It's not clear if he worked more shifts than what they were just able to track in July. And that's because they only retained GPS data for so long. They did just send me a statement 15 minutes ago that they said will prevent they've got some new technology that will prevent this from happening again. They say, quote, "This system ensures officers are only paid when they are physically present at their assigned job location, thereby preventing similar incidents from occurring in the future." They said that investigation is still ongoing. Live in Orlando, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
That's it for the show, folks. And you know what? Let's address the elephant in the room, the parent company. That's right. The parent company that always restricts your comments, and they always, well, I'm just going to say it's probably my fault because, put it this way, I leave them feedback in the little YouTube studio, and so that probably causes them to all gather around and read the stuff together. They're like, this guy, and then they're like, well, we'll just put the screws to this guy. But I'm not one of those people that's really a big believer in shadow banning and all that stuff. And the algorithm, I get it. That's just another word for, your video is either good or bad. Eventually, when we're really good, we'll have a bunch of views. But I'm not sure that that's all good either. Because then out of the woodwork comes a bunch of goofballs that I don't want to make videos for. I'm only making videos for you. That's right. You're the only one I'm doing it for, and I'm going to do it for you again tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. bright and early. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being here, folks.